My name is Marie, and this is Likened Unto Me, my personal scripture journey. I think I've become a natural goal setter. I've learned to really like accomplishing things. I'm one of those people that makes a list and includes things that I've already done just so I can feel good checking them off. But being a natural goal setter doesn't mean I'm always good at finishing my goals. I don't know how many I've missed, but I know there have been a lot. I think I've gotten a little bit better at picking my goals as I've gotten older because I know myself better, I'm a little more realistic, and I think I'm a little bit more motivated, but I still fall short often. So, beginning of a new year, you hear lots about New Year's resolutions. I'm not really on the resolution bandwagon. Technically, every day is a start of a new year anyway, right? But I do tend to reflect on where I've been and where I'm going at the beginning of each year. So, I've been thinking about goals and I wondered if they are an eternal principle, which I think it is kind of obvious that they are. But I also wondered if there is any mention of goals in the scriptures. Having goals or setting goals are not really phrases used in scripture. So I looked for stories of people having goals, and a couple of people came to mind. Nephi and the brass plates, Nephi breaking his bow, Nephi building a boat, and Captain Moroni fighting the Lamanites for so many years. While each specific goal is different in these stories, there are some interesting similarities and patterns to take note of about goal setting and keeping. And one major commonality that I think I've been missing that will help me be successful more often in actually completing my goals. Hopefully, you're familiar with these stories. If you need a refresher on the details, you can find the references in the episode description. One thing to remember is that goals can come from the Spirit or they can come from your own desires to improve your situation. In the case of Nephi breaking his bow, his goal was to get food for his family. I don't think the Lord had to tell him that this was a necessity. Nephi saw it needed to be done, so he did it. Same thing with Captain Moroni defending the Nephites. He knew that keeping the Nephites a free people was important, so he just set about trying to do that. Now, in the case of Nephi and the brass plates and building the boat, the goals were given to him by the Lord, meaning he was told exactly what it was he was supposed to do. But in all of these cases, they needed God's help to make it happen. That's pattern number one. We need God's help to accomplish our goals. When Nephi sets out to get the brass plates and when Captain Moroni begins to protect the Nephites, things don't go according to the first plan. Other people's agency gets in the way. Nephi's original plan was to just ask Laban for the plates. He had a plan for how he would accomplish his goal, sort of. I think he was really hoping that they could just ask and Laban would hand over the records. But as we know, that didn't work out and plans had to change. Captain Moroni's plan was for the Nephites to just be righteous so the Lamanites would have no power over them. They had been promised that. But obviously that didn't work out. The Nephites lost many cities and strongholds to the Lamanites because of intrigue and wickedness and kingmen and all of that stuff amongst themselves. So he adapted. He moved armies, changed strategies, tried new things, all while keeping in mind his ultimate goal, to keep the Nephites free. So lesson number 2 here on goals is don't give up just because your first plan didn't work. Make adjustments, rework things, find a new plan, and try again. In Philippians, Paul mentions he presses toward the mark of the prize. I think the word pressing implies there's opposition. You don't really press on something that's easy. So if the goal is really worthwhile, then keep pressing. Now, here's the thing that was most new to me and carried the most weight that I feel I really need to liken to myself. And maybe you've already figured this out, and that's awesome. But this was kind of new to me. I noticed in these goal stories that other people gave up, but Nephi and Captain Moroni didn't. In trying to obtain the plates, Nephi and his brothers try 3 different things. The first 2 fail. Laman and Lemuel were ready to give up when the first attempt went bust. They were angry when the second attempt almost got them killed, and they didn't even go along with the third try. They waited outside the city walls, mumbling about it the whole way. Nephi says he had them wait outside the city walls. Maybe it was because he couldn't handle the grumbling anymore. Anyway, when Nephi's bow breaks, his whole family starts to whine and complain and get angry, but Nephi just goes to work trying to figure out how to get food. Captain Moroni is the strength of his army. When they're ready to turn and retreat, not just retreat, but like flee, run away, he's there reminding them that they are fighting for their God, their wives, their children, their freedom, their religion. When his problem first started, he figured out why this goal, why the freedom of his people was worth it. And then he used that to push all the way through to the end. This is what I've been missing. I've never been very good at keeping long-term goals, especially things like exercising or eating better, even goals about reading my scriptures or praying. I so quickly forget why I'm doing it. I feel like my sleep is more important than getting up to say my prayers or read my scriptures or exercise. Those cookies are just so tasty, and I really think I need them now. 1 bag won't hurt. The problem is I do it once today, and then once tomorrow, and then the next day, and before I know it, I'm right back to where I started. I lose the big picture. You have to know and remember where your goal fits into the big picture. That's what Nephi did. He knew how important the scriptures were to his family. He remembered that the promised land was across the waters. So when the boat building got hard, he just kept going. He knew that his family had to have food. He remembered it was all for the promised land. Captain Moroni knew that more than anything, freedom was what was most important to the Nephites. Freedom to choose, freedom to worship God. And he held on to that and reminded his men of it when the going got tough. So, likening this to me, I don't know where my exercising or eating healthy fits into the big picture yet. I sometimes wonder if it's truly that necessary to pray every day. I'm really working on this one. I'm really, really trying. But if I'm going to be able to set and keep goals in those areas, I think I'm going to need to be able to see how they fit in the big picture. So there may be no mention of New Year's resolutions in the scriptures, but there were definitely goals. What other goals can you think of that people in the scriptures had? Are there any patterns there that you could use to make your own goals more successful? Thanks for listening. Any quotes or scriptures or stories that I used are cited in the description. This is Likened Unto Me, my personal scripture journey.